typically I do, but not when it comes to this stuff. I think we're going to now. I apologize, guys.
You'll be an expert here pretty soon.
No, I'm thinking I'm resigning.
No crash courses like this.
Thanks.
All right, I think we're good. Let's start the meeting. I love it. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Okay. Did everyone on the board get a chance to look at the minutes from August? Any corrections or discussion? There a motion to approve those? Make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Angelina, the superintendent is not here tonight, so Angelina's going to do the superintendent's report.
We had a lot going on the first few weeks that Tracy was here and since our last meeting. And here they are. First, we're going to talk about Kramer Beach. We did pick up the signs. Went out there, set them in concrete, attached them to the poles, and without incident. The last report I had is that they are still standing. So hopefully everyone's happy on that. Starke County Forest, Tracy has spoke with him, with Bruce, and they're going to set up a meeting when she returns. She's on vacation. She'll be back on Thursday. And they're going to work towards establishing that mission statement he spoke to from the last meeting. Bass Lake Piers. The South Pier was completely removed. The North Pier 2 had 7 sections that were taken down. And Tom, I'll let you talk more specifically, but just let me finish up with, I did speak with the lady from the DNR after we submitted pictures, explained our situation, that we hadn't done everything we were required to do. She came back with a letter saying that the only other thing we're not really in compliance with at this point is on their map. They show us a little closer to the well house on the other side of the beach. She said she understands it's too late in the season. The goal is to start working towards re-permitting the permits for next year based on the number of fingers, the hardware, the pier sections that we have. She's going to work with Steve Barrett and Tom to figure out exactly how many slips, how that's going to be configured, get those permits in there so we'll be ready and golden by next spring. So you want to go ahead and finish up on that?
Yeah, no, I would just say that obviously there's been a lot of folks have shown patience throughout this summer. It's been a really trying year getting those piers into place, and then once they were in place, then we had to obviously pull some things back. Everyone's been very patient, and that's appreciated by everyone up here for sure. And as Angelina said, I believe that now that we did do the removals that the DNR requested, we're okay with them at this point, anyways, with the way they're currently set up. At least until we put the new permits in. So I would say that should be our number one goal for is to get those permits in place before next spring, obviously way before next spring, so that we know the number of sites we have, the number of folks that we have that are asking for sites. And that's kind of where we're at.
Are we gonna be able to see the permit maximize and use every pier we have?
That's the whole goal. Figure out exactly what we have as far as equipment. Determine how many slips we can get based on the 3 pier configuration. And then that's what the permit will be submitted for.
Yeah, my suggestion would be is that we put out the marina pier as we did this year, except for without the redwood sections, use regular 4-foot wide sections going out. And we try to configure that as it was this year. The other 2 piers, I think the layouts that we had in the beginning of the spring, that's what we were building towards, right? But those weren't the actual permits from a decade ago. So I would suggest that we start there, at least as far as.
Now, what's the timeline for the permits? When do we want to submit them, and when are we going to know what?
She said, and she's gave us the information who the lady is that Tracy will need to work with. She said it's at least 60 to 90 days. So she said the sooner you start working on that, and that's Tracy's goal is to meet with Steve Barrett as soon as she gets back, things get settled. Get out there and just do a hands-on look at what we have as far as equipment wise. And determine what we've got as far as how many piers we're gonna end up with. With that being said, you can speak to this as well because you went out and saw, we were offered a section of piers. Was donated to us. It's 16 sections. We just have to make arrangements to get them picked up. Tom looked at them. He thinks it's worthwhile accepting that donation.
Yeah, because especially the hardware is the kind of the Muncie type hardware, so it's good hardware. The sections are only 3 foot wide as opposed to 4 foot wide, but they look like they're good sections. Even if we don't use them, we can put them in for, to have them auctioned or whatever, but the hardware for sure is something that we should get, but removing it all. And the lady asked that we have it removed by the 20th of this month, so.
We're gonna meet that goal. We're hoping we can get with county, see if we can get their
And that's free.
trailer.
There's no cost. to
Maybe
that.
get with sheriff's department, see if we can use some of the prisoners to get them loaded and then loaded back at our place. That I'm gonna let Tracy fine tune.
I think you guys are doing a good job. Sooner we can let everybody know how many piers are, the better, obviously.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like early on, they're gonna have that determined.
Yeah.
While we're speaking about that, there has been several pier slip people that have contacted me regarding how we're going to determine what amount of credit they're all going to be entitled to. Tom and I've had some conversation. What I've done up until we got the DNR shut down was I determined how much they paid, how many weeks they were there for the season, divided by how many weeks they were displaced was the credit I applied for next year. Once the DNR came out, then all that changed and we are trying to come up with a fair formula to everyone. If we look at a third back, I have those numbers, they're not pretty. But right now, if we went with, before I looked at the ones that were displaced by the DNR change, we were at about $9,000. Now we're at about $12,000 in credit towards next year. So I think if we use that 1/3 formula, it's going to be fair to everybody. Again, I've been so busy. I hope to have that more specifically today. With Tracy being gone, he was gone the week before. I just haven't had the time to sit down and do the math.
We get those numbers for next month.
Absolutely promise you that I'll have specific numbers next month.
Right, and for sure, everyone, without a doubt, has been disadvantaged to some degree this year, obviously, so.
Also, Tracy, I and Dave Pearman went out to the sheriff's office and looked at the 4-wheelers that they were going to donate to us for $1,300. And we determined that they were not in good enough shape for us to accept, that we'll just look for something else in the future. We ordered the new garage door. It's going in on September the 17th, that's Saturday. The augers that were not usable in the redwood pier sections have already been taken to the county for auction. We're in the process of getting estimates for the tree limbs throughout the park. Randy installed reflectors on the outside of the campground gates. So it's up to the campers if they're going to start shutting them and opening them like some people want and some people don't. We can't police that, but at least they're there and encourage people to close that gate at night. We also decided to postpone the hill excavating. They were going to jet those lines out for $5,000. We decided to wait on that because we wanted to get through the season. We're in this crisis with the lift station, which we'll get into later. We want to be able to have a clean slate when we get these people out here quoting what we need for this lift station. So that'll happen after the campers leave and prior to the winterization. There was an awful lot of storm damage from the August 29th storm. I personally want to say thank you, Tom Bush, for all you did. You were the only board member that even reached out to us to see what happened, but more importantly, you came out, you helped us get boats that were grounded, augured. I mean, Rick, you were there. It was a mess. And then all the storm cleanup, all our campers came together, limb damage. We had a huge tree that came down. It was a 30-foot tree that just snapped, hanging right by a guy's RV. So we ended up having to get somebody to come out. That was $600 to get that tree down. But it was an emergency. We called every tree service we could find. But again, with all the damage, he was the only one, Aaron's Tree Service, that actually responded. And we got it down the very next morning. So we just want to say thank you to all the people that helped us with that. That is your superintendent's report.
Any discussion about that report? I think you did the Creamer Beach up.
But a lot of this was already in the report for the superintendent.
Rita, I think you have something to say.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for the signs and
You're welcome.
the hard work you and Tracy put in. The signs are small, but there's one big sign as you go into the beach that says, believe it or not, no dogs, no horses, no farm animals. And the sign underneath, it's only like an 8x10, and the sign that's above the one saying Kramer Beach is about the size of that TV. Is there a way we could get a bigger sign saying Kramer Beach? We'd be happy. We know your funds are short. We'd be happy to help offset the funds.
I think that's very possible.
Yeah, because that sign's just way too small.
Now, are you okay with the other two that are on the beach?
I think so. What do you think, Kathy?
Well, I clean the beach and I've had some comments from people that say, now I kind of, not just me, but 2 or 3 other people help me to till that area up and get rid of all that grass that was growing in the area that's really our public area. We would like that moved back, we could, or maybe put a table there, so it doesn't, because it's right here in the.
And you talking about where the guardrail is? That side or the
No,
other?
where you put it in that with the 2x4 or whatever you call those, where you put the post in, where you concreted the
At the
post in.
end of it.
Is there a way to move that back farther? Since we've tilled out some of that grass and.
You're talking about where the tree was,
Mhm.
that side, okay.
Because we've extended it now. I've removed all that grass, so it'd be a, not just me. I mean, there were 2 other
Two
people.
chicks in a post hole there. We got her down now. We didn't have to call it help from land, but,
Bard, I think it was.
okay, I'll make sure that Tracy knows and. we'll
Yeah, they gotta
see
be
what we can
bigger.
do.
If it's okay. And like I said, we can help offset some of the costs.
And one other thing, people have asked me if we could have that stump ground down. And so if you could maybe find out if maybe we could find someone, maybe someone out there might just do it for nothing. So I can check
I
around.
lived on a farm and had a lot of woods. And we take a tree down, we use big drill bits and put charcoal in there and we just burned it down and it just went down to nothing. It's a thought.
It's kind of close to his fence though.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, the other thing you can do with the tree stump is drill holes and pour salt in it. Salt will kill the tree.
That's true. We'll work on that.
Okay,
Thank
I mean, we can work on it too. I can have my husband drill some holes.
When we're talking about a bigger sign, how much bigger? Do we know?
Well, the sign, the 8x10 sign you have right now is underneath the sign that's that big.
It's like holding a piece of paper up underneath your TV.
Yeah, just hold it, you know,
You
like
got a big huge sign, then you got this little tiny
think
thing
that's
over there.
what I would kind of use,
probably.
that's how that worked, wasn't it?
Well, I know they sent you a couple of sign sizes and it was whatever, which one you
Whatever,
decided.
those are the ones they had.
And I believe you did go with the biggest one that was offered.
Yes, yeah, it really did. So if they could maybe come up with a price and then maybe the Coos Lake Association could offset that.
Other than that, we've had no problems. I don't think they're around.
Very good.
I have a question. Computers that were donated, are they out of the water?
Yes.
Yes, they're
Yeah, and
down
they're
by the road,
yeah,
ready
and
to
they're
go.
actually right next to the road, so they're very accessible.
I like, try to help out. I got a car hauler that I got. So,
You're hired. Well, you're volunteering, but you're hired.
Yeah, we got the address and the location and everything.
yeah,
It's right next
just
to
give
the
it a
road.
couple of days ahead, stuff like
And I-
change other plans.
Saturday. Is that enough time?
It's 40, don't it?
Yeah.
Okay, he said, yeah,
That'll be fine.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Update on campground lift station, and I don't like that.
That's a
last
spring
one.
depression.
Well, I'm gonna start this and then I'm gonna let Randy finish it because
Okay,
quite frankly, up until today, from the beginning of my tenure here, we have spent $12,666 on putting Band-Aids on the lift station. That's having it pumped out, it's having it blown out, it's having it rewired. I can't even tell you all the things that we've had done. I went through the budget today to see what claims were filed. It didn't count them coming out and putting new faucets in the bathroom or whatever. This is specifically the sewage system that we've spent that money. It has, and all we've done is Band-Aids. I understand that we have to do something, we need to get grant money. Question is this going to be considered an infrastructure grant, or, you know, what grants do we go for? We can't, in my opinion, in Tracy's opinion, and in Randy's, continue to spend the countless hours that we have. I know myself, yesterday was 9 hours out there in the rain, just trying to help them, between the electrician, then the plumber, then the electrician came back. He came and did second shift. Our lift station was to the top. I mean, we were overwhelmed with sewage and storm drain water. It was critical. So we had to spend that money yesterday. Haven't got today's bill. I'm sure it's going to be quite sizable. But I think that it's just paramount that we put this.
Did you reach out to board members to see if that was okay?
I reached out to Carl Swihart yesterday because I tried to reach you. Again, I'm in a crisis. And so I at least called you because I was told you would be the more accessible based on your working hours. You were in Winnemat. I did try. Again, without really feeling like we've got a lot of support when it comes to the board.
Wait.
That would-
Every time you've asked for something from the station.
No, I was going to say
Wait,
in
wait,
a crisis.
Let me finish. Every time when we've had emergencies before, every time we have gotten together and
You
support.
have,
I was saying we're just doing Band-Aids, not doing, wait, let me finish. You said you were doing Band-Aids. You suggested those Band-Aids.
because
You
we're,
did.
but that's what I'm saying. We've got
Don't
to
say
do.
that that was the wrong way to do it, because that's the way you said to do. You asked us to do
Well,
that.
that's the point I'm trying to make to you, is that this is the time we need to stop doing that, and let's look seriously at an
Yes.
infrastructure
I
grant.
guess I would have known about
Well, again, when I called Mr. Ballard, his wife suggested I call Rick because Rick was the more accessible. We're up this high in sewage yesterday. I called who I was recommended to call, and I went on his decision.
it. But don't say you're not getting support from the board for this. You didn't say that a minute ago.
No, you didn't let me finish my sentence, though. I'm not getting support. You are giving us support, but I'm saying, as far as a lot of times I can't reach anybody. You were the first one out there on 4th of July. I thank you for that. But again, we've got to figure out how we stop putting Band-Aids and how we start fixing the problem. That's what I meant by, and we're trying. Now, Randy's got a good end of this story because we had a really tough 2 days. So I'll let you take it away.
Anyway, the pump was totally dead Sunday afternoon, totally dead. We just, blew the capacitors out, burned up everything, burned up the circuit breakers. So we decided to wait till Monday rather than having a Sunday emergency call. Most of the campers are already gone home and already gone, so.
Lock the bathrooms on the other side.
The bathrooms on the other side, so we wouldn't get any more water coming in. For Angie, I had to stay home. I had my car broke down, so I worked on my car yesterday. She handled this all day yesterday myself. But to make a long story short, we ventured today. We took the pump out, got it lifted up out of the box, crap and all. And the impeller in the bottom actually had like almost like a washcloth or a rope or something. It was just seized up tight. So no matter what electrical things we would do to it, it was just gonna blow it right now. I just want to commend this guy. Even if his bill is high from today, that guy was just-
Phenomenal.
he was just right on it all day. He would not give up on working with me to try to get this done. Well, we pulled all the crap, all this rags and whatever is out of that pump. We got it freed up. We got it back in. It's working right now on automatic. We were able to take the nameplate off of it while we had it out. And so we've got an update on this. The size of this one's actually bigger than the one that was laying on the thing before. It's a 40 amp instead of a 30. We got all the breakers in, 2 new capacitors. It was running on automatic just fine when I left, and it's all gone down. And I think one of the problems that one thing we could not fix today, there's a baffle in there that prevents the backwash from once it pumps out to come back in. There's a flat gun. I don't know, but a back
Check.
check valve. Well, that thing was it was just loose in there in the cavity. And there's a pin in there and the back that goes in, we couldn't get the.
No gasket.
loose. We actually had to leave that out. But I think that was one of our main problems lately with the thing filling up so fast all the time, because I think we were getting the backwash from everybody filling the whole system from the street. I think it was coming back that way as well. Now, I know we've got a lot of leakage in our system with the old manholes and all that. There's no concrete, it's just all brick laid, and a lot of problems there, but we got lucky again today. It's running, and But again, I'm just gonna say, I'm just praying that we get done for another 6 weeks till the end of the season. And really, we have to, we have to look at really addressing this whole system. Getting everyone out, get the pictures taken of what the system looks like. And going into having a second pump put in like we talked about earlier this year. I mean, it's money, but one of these days, we're gonna be on a pumper truck in there every other day to pump out that box if we don't take care of the problem. I think the pump that's in there could be used as a pump, and then get another new one to go beside that perhaps, you know, if you have the 2 pumps in there that are required. I don't know, some people might say, well, that pump's too old to do that, but I don't know. But but this winter, we definitely have to address this, and actually the whole sewer system. Take a look at what we're dealing with.
Well, I would like the superintendent to come up with a report for us saying, what is the solution for this? And take the next month or so to come up with that solution, so we can act on it.
Remember, I brought to you the proposal that was done by the fellow from Illinois. And we talked about this at the last meeting. At least we knew what to start asking other companies for, because up until that, we didn't know where to start. So we do have a starting point. I know that Tracy has been working on trying to secure quotes from other companies with similar to their bid.
Are we talking about the lift station?
Yeah, we need 2 new pumps. We need a whole new control panel. We need new floats. We need it jetted out. There's a lot.
If I remember right, we were talking 16,000.
That's what they told us when I met with them
Lift.
physically. When I got their written proposal, it went from 16,000 to 32,000. And we did have a camper that has some experience with this. He sent me a website, the company that provides all the equipment that's pretty much listed in those people's quote. And he said he thinks that we could probably use that information, secure the parts that we need, and find a qualified person or company to do the installation. So I think that's a second way to look at it than just go with one,
Yeah.
I think we should look at both sides.
Need a solution that's not a 2 to 5 year solution, need a 10, 15, 20-year solution.
I agree.
Instead of paying 15, 20,000 now, 15, 20,000 5 years from now and so on. Let's do it where it's 15, 20 years long term.
So can you have that information by the next meeting or?
I will certainly work with Tracy on it. Yes, we will. I'll commit that. It's that important.
The price span went from like 14,000 to 32,000.
Yeah, it was insane.
It's gotta really be looked at close, who's giving what, because,
Yeah.
you know, usually either somebody's gouging or there's a big quality difference.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on that? Yes, sir.
Is there a way that we can get with the people who do the sewage around the lake? If we can raise that and just gravity pull that out to the street, or is that not an option? Because
Tom Jordan said that's not an option.
it's not an option.
Mhm.
The whole system's pressurized.
May I interrupt for 1 second? When you all talk, would you please do me a favor and tell me your name and where you're from? Because when I do the minutes, I don't see who's talking. And so it would help me a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, and one real quick thing on this check valve that's in there, we're gonna have to take this pump out again. In the near future, so I'm gonna try to find one of those check valves from that company to replace that, because right now, anything can come back in.
Okay.
We've got really good pictures. We've
But
got,
we haven't had time to maybe even
Yeah.
investigate that.
And how would rags and things?
Pardon me?
How would rags and other things get in there?
somebody flushing them down the toilet.
Flushing down a toilet.
But then I did talk to Tom Jordan because during the rain, the last 2 days, especially yesterday, when I lifted that up, it was just gushing in. There were no campers. There was no one in the bathrooms to have that kind of water flow. And he said, think about how old your pipe systems are. They're the old plate pipes. They're full of cracks. That groundwater is seeping in and it's rushing into your tank.
And
Same with the 2
well,
manholes.
it's Likely bringing debris with it.
Yeah, that, I would think so too.
But I didn't realize until today that there was a tap when they're actually keeping that water out. That's just feeding back and you pump it out and it's coming back.
Yeah.
That's probably been broke for a while.
Actually, the one side of it was worn where it was rubbing up against the power. So it's been doing that for some time.
So we're probably talking about more than just a lift station.
I would assume so. What's the lift station, the control panel for one thing. And then it's going to be looking at getting the cameras in to see how our flow is
So you don't
From-
need to replace something there.
and I'm assuming it's gonna be the same thing it was on 4th of July. Well, we have to pull that up and put the plastic piping down versus the,
After all these years, let's get in.
Yeah, and get us some kind of report for next. Look at that. Implementation of seasonal camping storage.
okay, there's been a lot of. He said, she said, as far as there being discussion on beginning to charge a $300 storage fee for our seasonals that want to leave their camper on site. With the help of Kathy Norm, I found out that in the February 12th meeting was when it was decided that fees were to be posted on Facebook and the website to $2,300 seasonal, excuse me, with a $50 storage rate per month. And the campground will not be plowed or maintained, have access to anything inside. And that the campers are to remove any of their personal things that might be strewn about. So we went ahead and decided to go ahead and implement that. To some people, they were surprised, others they understood. I guess the position we take is if you feel you can store your camper elsewhere for less money and be able to have access, you certainly have that right. We're giving you an option to make sure that it's winterized, it's there, and it's a fair price. So Justin made up an agreement for this year because next year, in our new lease, it's coming out for next year. It's already stated in there that that fee will be part of the lease that they signed in.
That's the question that I never asked before. If they elect to take it out, can they give you like $100 deposit to hold that lot for them for next year?
We're not going to take their lot. If they say that they're coming back,
Okay.
as long as their
That's-
first
that's-
installment payment is $1,150 is there by May 1st, you're safe. We also implemented a late fee. You have 7 days to pay each installment payment. There won't be 3 installments, there'll be 2. If you're 7 days late, there'll be a $50 late fee included in that. And I guess the theory is, you know, if I'm late on a payment, I have to pay a late payment. I still have several out there that haven't even paid their second installment. We've spent a lot of time and money just trying to chase down the money that should have already been brought to us. So I think that's kind of why they did that. The other thing on the lease is that we need to discuss the mowing. I guess I stirred.
Lawn care responsibilities.
I stirred the can of worms because when Randy went on vacation, he gave me a list of no mow and mow. So I mowed the mows and no the no's. Well, then I started getting beaten up on Facebook because I didn't mow a mow. And long story short, I was going off the mow and no mow list. Then I started getting absolutely hammered every time I drove through the parking lot. What is this with the mow no? No, we're told no one gets their yard mowed. Why is somebody getting theirs mowed and we're not getting ours mowed? We as a department and you all as the board need to make a decision and we need to implement that beginning the next season. I have a couple of feelings because I camp every winter for the last 20+ years. And for the most part, we take responsibility for our own area. The reason being, and an example I had just happened last year, we were like, we take care of our own, but some nice guy with a weed eater decided to come and whack our sewage line. It was a mess. If we were to throw a rock through somebody's RV or through their trailer, are we going to be liable for replacing it? If we throw a twig and it catapults into the side of there, are we going to, there's 2 ways to look at it.
I remember correctly, when we were discussing this, most of the people who had campsites did not want us on. They wanted to do those themselves. I don't remember anybody saying they wanted us to be on that, right, to do that.
Well, that's where I didn't know till I was home.
I'm gonna say a couple of things. One is the no mow, that's hard to say, no mow list. That I gave her, but because I was on vacation for a week. Before I went on vacation, I evaluated the campground. Some of them I mowed before I left and then I made the ones that I didn't feel would have to be mowed because grass was growing slow. So that's not a permanent list. So that's.
But
one
there's
thing.
still a lot on there, Randy. You have to be
Yeah,
candid
there's a lot
about
of
that.
them.
That there is a no mow and a mow list.
But a lot of people change their mind about not wanting to do their lots after they found out they can come there on a Friday night and Saturday night at the mall. So some people have changed their mind on taking care of their own yard. They want all the
And then I had someone come up to me after that saying, okay, if I have to mow my own lot, I want money off my rent. I'm like, wait a minute, let's let the board decide this, because I'm just here as the
There's campers that were mowing their lots.
some by choice.
I like to mow my own.
Okay, so do we charge for that? Is it additional or is it?
And that's where the ones that are mowing their own are feeling like they should be getting a discount because they're having to mow their own yards. I'm thinking we need to consider two things. One, either we mow none, and those that do not mow and don't take care of their lot, we end up giving them a relatively large bill for having to mow their lot because they didn't keep it up. If we make it too affordable, then the ones that don't want to mow are gonna say, oh, I can pay that $20 here. You know what I'm saying? We have to decide what's fair to everybody.
I think what's fair is if you want your yard mowed, you pay a little bit more,
Yeah, I would agree with
not
that.
less, not a discount.
I mean, it's gonna be hard enough to keep up on everything that we need to mow.
I agree. So what's a fair price?
Question.
What's the general area of each site? How much space are we talking about?
What's your question?
What's the general area of each
How
campsite?
many,
How much
some of
space?
them are so huge and some are smaller.
100 by 100. I mean, that's exactly. I mean, some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller, but yeah.
How many of these lots do you know?
Oh, probably 40.
Wow. Out of 60.
40 out of 60.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some people say I'm not gonna be here next week to mow mine.
Is that a right number? Is that fair?
And what do you think it's worth the mowing of the lots?
How long does it take you to mow one?
Well, there's a lot of variables here, guys.
There's a lot of, people
Because
have a lot of stuff.
there's a lot of yard art.
Yes, sir.
Hidden up.
Exactly.
And
Dog
so
chain.
some, and I won't. You can find another guy, because, I mean, I'm not gonna get off that mower and pull dolphins or
Yeah, I don't blame you.
swans out of the yard and dog leashes and stuff like that. I'm gonna mow the yard as best I can, as close as I can, but maybe that's not right. But that's all I'm gonna give them,
Well, I don't blame you there.
but
And we mow, we don't weed eat after that. So it's not like
Right.
we're trimming it up and making it meticulous. Deb does all her
What do you
yards
think?
very
What do
much
you think it's
meticulous.
roughly,
I do, I like.
probably 25 minutes a yard, basically, with that mower that we have, And, but
$10, $15. Each one.
I mean, that's up to you guys. I don't.
I think we ought to have somebody who is in the mowing business give us an estimate. He may not want to do it next year. Then what are we gonna do? And if somebody comes on and says, I want $40 a lot to mow them. Well, there you are. You want to mow yours? Okay. If you're not, there's your $40.
Sam, I could tell you at the beginning of last season, we tried diligently to try to find companies that would even come out and give us a quote. Nobody wants to. do
That's actually one of the reasons why we bought the mower.
it. Yeah, we couldn't get any.
Can't get nobody. My son has no lawn business, and it's very hard to get people.
I'll be trying to get somebody to give you an estimate to tell you what it's worth.
Yeah, we can do that.
That's what we need to do.
Okay.
It's not fair. This is a business. No matter what anybody considers, this is a business. And we can't just be giving money away and lose it because somebody doesn't like the way it's done.
I agree.
They'll take it on the chin.
I think that because we're at the end of the season, my suggestion would be, let's leave it as it is, but prior to us finalizing the new lease, where I think we need to.
Come
have that
next year,
included in that
put some
lease,
rules in place.
that we could make a decision and then our lease will be finalized and ready to come out when the first campers come in next season.
Then we'll have a better idea of the prices if we need to add a price or whatever.
Because they'll probably go over you.
Okay, so you're gonna try to get us someone to give us an price on that. Okay, short station storage on Bass Lake Beach.
Okay, we began taking our first shore station customers on Saturday. We have,
I got a little report on that if you want me to.
we have 6 out right now.
No, it's 4.
No, 4, that's right.
There's 4 on the beach. There, and the rest of these numbers I'm giving you is just the shore stations that are in the water. We don't know for sure whether they're gonna wanna store them with us or not, but this would be the most. that we were
I have
taking.
8 that I know that are definitely
Right.
coming on.
Well,
with
no,
us.
there's a lot,
In
there's a
addition-
number, so there's 7 shore stations that were on that South Pier. Whether they all come with us or not, I don't know, but there's 2 on the side that I'm not exactly sure of. But there's 3 on North Pier 1. And then there's 11 on North Pier 2. So whether they all come with us or not, I don't know, but that would be the total number, because that was one of the decisions I think that was made, that we would only be storing shore stations for our existing customers, so.
What numbers again, Tom?
There's 4 on the beach, already out of the water. There's 7 in the water on the South Pier. There's 2 on the side of that South Pier. I'm not really sure who they are, but 3 on North Pier 1 shore stations, and then there's 11 on North Pier 2 that are in the water.
Are people's names on these piers?
They're supposed to be.
Well, that's
then
one
we
of the
need to take
things
care of
that
that.
actually
When I'm out
Yeah.
there,
facing
I've
the mission, sure.
and I've notified everyone. We actually have a storage agreement that we drew up. They sign it saying that their name and telephone number will be on there. That we're not held in any way responsible for any act of God or thievery or anything. So we have the ones that are up there now. I have that information. I've got a spreadsheet going of who's there, their number, where they're located. So,
And who's taking up the piers?
Well-
You hired Steve Barrett.
no. Oh, taking out the piers, yeah.
Yes.
I thought you meant the shore station.
No, no,
I'm
sure,
sorry.
yeah.
Yes,
Shore stations, the people are responsible for getting them out.
I understand.
Place on their own.
the
They need to
piers are
be-
gonna start September 30th.
So the shore stations need to be out before we do the piers.
No, the piers, they can come out around.
They come out. All right. Discussion on grant writing.
So I had asked Angela to just make sure that we put this on the agenda so that we're not in the same spot that we were at the beginning of this year. So whatever grants that are out there, just so that we make it a priority to make sure that we get something submitted, in a timely fashion, so. Because that's our revenue source. Concentrate on getting the peer permits, concentrate on getting the grants if we're gonna apply for one.
There are a lot of different opportunities for grants. You go on the Indiana.gov site, you go on the KIRPC site, KIRPZ.
KIRPZ.
Take a key Iroquois Regional Planning Commission.
Okay,
They have grants available that would aid to this. The DNR, IDEM. There's federal grants. If you just basically, if you get on the computer and start looking, they're easy to find the opportunities. And if I can think of any more, and yes, and the Park Association.
Right, that was the reason for that, to get the granted the membership to the Indiana Parks and Recreation Association, because there's grants available. Now that will be up come the end of the year, and then it will be up to you, the board, to decide if you want to rejoin. But that was the purpose of trying to look at them and see what kind of grants are available, because there are some.
Can you have Tracy get with, sorry.
That
Debbie, I'm sorry, Debbie. And I think we should rejoin that because there were grant opportunities and good ones, and they focus exactly on what we need.
we're neighbors in our office. We're right across the door from each other, so that'll be easy. Kathy, you wanted to add something, right?
Yes, thanks. I didn't get this on the agenda quick enough, but I'm the president of the CVC board, which is the Convention and Visitors Commission. And just in a nutshell, we distribute the innkeeper tax to things that will enhance or promote tourism in Starke County. So we have provided a variety of grants to a variety of people for a variety of things, such as some of the festivals we've provided money for. We've provided money for advertising in the big annual festivals magazine. And we did one grant for, they'll come to me in a minute. But the one thing we did at our last meeting, and there was a little mix up on who was going to notify you, which is why I'm here tonight, because there's some requirements with this. We voted unanimously to give the park board $30,000 for the kayak launch. And specifically, that would be, we are giving you 50% of that is to go to the Knox kayak launch. And 50% is to go to the very last one, which is down there by where the train, what's the name of that? Right?
It's the confluence of the Kankakee.
Yes, that's it, right down there. And if you remember, quite a few years ago, the park board did a study and Mary Perrin wrote a grant, a really, really good grant, and we got cheated, but I digress. For getting those funded. Well, I don't know if those are ever going to be funded, and this park board has so many needs and so many things to do, but that is something that will increase tourism in Starke County. And so therefore, we want to give you 30 grand for those, 50%. But there's some limitations with that. I mean, just like you spent 15 minutes on who's gonna pick up the augers or who's gonna get the suit, you know, all your time is spent on Bass Lake Beach. This has to be, you have to start construction on those sites within 18 months. So that puts you to the spring of 2024. Because we don't want this money to sit there and languish. We want you to get out there, we want you to get it done. It's going to require you to get some other grant funds. And in the back of your 5-year plan, there is a list of places other than what Rick had mentioned where you can also get grant funds. And one in particular that I used when we did the Veterans Monument was a places grant that they're using currently in Hamlet. And I thought maybe Judson would have one that was going on too, where you raise funds and you only have 45 to 60 days to raise those funds. And whatever you set as your threshold up to $50,000, they'll match dollar for dollar. So we matched. We got $50,000 grant because we raised $50,000 in 45 days for that monument over there.
That's
So yes, and that's a huge amount of money. We know that $30,000 is not going to construct both of these sites. We expect you to get some other, and I would encourage you to use the Community Foundation as well. They've provided grants for us on this board before. And I'm familiar with working with them, and I don't know, you may have used some of them at the park board too. So if you do not start construction within the 18 months, or the 18 months, which is the spring of 2024, then we want the money back. And we'll distribute it to somebody that can get a project going. And I don't mean to be rude or anything, but business is business. So get those launches going. And again, specifically, it is Knox, the one here in Knox, which is before the rapids. Bob did a rendition on that and one at the very end of the trail. We know there's other ones, but we saw those two as being the most likely to bring tourism into Starke County here. So I want to make sure that's documented in your minutes, that you're aware of it, that you've been told, and what the parameters are with that. So
I think that's a great opportunity. I will send you the report that Mary did in our report, our application for those kayak launches. So you know exactly what's to be done in those. To also, if Tracy could meet with Jackie Ryan from the Community Foundation, they helped really organize the one for the memorial out here. And that would be a good start for that entire process of meeting.
oh, no. Let's get that straight. Kathy Norm organized everything.
No, yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Absolutely. So let's give the favorite press.
Your name's number one on that.
Yes, I saw that too.
One question, you said there's 18 months to start. Is there a deadline on completing it?
We haven't set a deadline on completing it, but maybe we should do that. We're going to be meeting, so I can get back with you on that. I would say you should have those done with, once you get them, because you don't have what Bob did with preliminary plans. He still has to actually draw the plans, Bob Lloyd from Territorial Engineering. And if you start with him, he can be doing that in the winter if he's not too busy. So then you have to get bids for it, and you have to see how much short you are and how much funds you have to raise and before you can do those. But we'll be around and we can certainly help you through that process, but I'll talk to them about that. But we were pretty adamant. We want to see some construction in 18 months.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, and speaking of that, I have several documents I want to give, and one of these is the original document that we have with the Community Foundation for the Veterans Memorial. And you should be getting that's the original document. And Carl is the park board person for that. But there's 20-some thousand dollars in there. People can give money to that. And the proceed, that's a perpetual fund. So the proceeds from that are to help keep the monument up, because that is the responsibility of the park board, because we annexed that onto the park board. So just FYI.
Can I get a copy of that, Dick, at some point?
You should be getting a report soon from them.
Yeah, we'd like to have a copy as well.
Okay. Then this is just things I had. This is the Indiana Administrative Code for the Bass Lake Special Boating Zones and Temporary Structures. Bliss McKnight, remember when Bliss McKnight is the county's liability insurance, and this is a sample agreement for a kayak rental. They are a wonderful resource for you to have.
I think that's what we used to do our waiver with.
Perfect. And then finally, this is, I just thought this ought to be kept in the files. This is a memorandum that was written by Marty Lucas when he was the county attorney, basically about Kramer Beach. So that's all I have to say. At our next meeting, we'll talk about an end date for you, but you do have the 18 months. And again, that places grant is very good.
Where is the location of this kayak spot here?
It's on that document that Rick was talking about. That he's gonna, there's a huge, we had a huge plan drawn up that Bob Lloyd did. And keep in mind, your permits have already been, he's gotten your permits are ready to go. Now, one thing, if I'm sure there's an expiration date on those permits, because you have to go through the DNR and that. But if I understood Bob correctly, getting them renewed was a lot easier than having to apply for new ones. So you want to stay on top of those too, make sure that you don't get too far out of compliance with that. But basically, it is just before the rapids. So people can get out of their canoes, truck them down to the other side and to get, so they don't have to go through the rapids. And
East side of the bridge, right?
yes, on the east side of the bridge.
Is there something designated marking the spot now, or just?
I don't think so. But there's a rendition. Bob's got pictures on that report that he did, and he's got a estimate of how much it would cost and what kind of, it's a good engineering report. And the other thing that he did too, Sam, when he did that, was he evaluated every place where there was a road that crossed by to make it for safety. Because somebody wanted the park board to put a kayak launch, I think, on a range road. Well, it's too dangerous there. There isn't enough. So he said, no, don't put it there. It's too dangerous. You'd have too much liability. Put it here instead. So there's one at the very 1100 east or
700 east,
23.
23, 39 and near 12 Mile Road. And I think Knox,
Yes, is where it was a white water or a blue water trail. Is what it was called. So, and I also understood that Marshall County had some degree of interest in putting in and maybe working some with Starke County.
we did communicate with them a little bit, and I have the name of the person we communicated with. I'll give you that with. And they're very interested in working with us. They are coming up with last time I spoke with them, they were coming up with a similar plan to ours.
So the one on 700, Jeremiah Patrick had told me he'd be interested in doing the construction on that one himself, because he owns the property right there. And I said, I thought that would probably be, this was when I was still on the park board. I said, I thought that'd probably be okay with the park board as long as he paid for it. We'd allow him to use our plans and our permits, but then the park board would own that once he had it constructed. So
Similar on 23.
with Dr. Fretz, which is another thing. I don't think that last I heard, Marty had not finalized the transfer of that property to the park board. So this might be an impetus to make sure that property is transferred over to you as well. My granddaughter's on.
Your granddaughter.
Tell her hello.
Any other questions before I go answer the granddaughter on the phone?
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks.
See you later.
The name of that grant that she was talking about with the match,
Right,
patronicity.
patronicity. Okay, the one that she said, the 30,000?
The 50,000,
The 50,000.
match, so up to 50,000.
What's it called?
Patronicity,
So we'd have to have an effort to raise funds locally and they
Right.
would match up to. 50.
right. And it has to come from the community and not from
Large,
any
right.
one individual or group, so
Right.
they wanted a community as part of
Development.
the reason why.
I've got one more thing.
Yes.
The last two park board meetings, we've asked you to come out and survey. I've got volunteers that have been fighting at the bit to come and do stuff down there. But you guys wanted to come down and see what it was like remove those tables and whatever else have you, and discuss it with them. Do you have any idea when you guys might be gonna, I know Tracy's on vacation.
Well, we've been out there, but I know they expressed an interest.
They did,
So we kind of were waiting.
Could Tracy, when she gets back, set up a time with us?
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, I went out and looked at it, but.
Yeah, but it's mainly the guys that have their ideas on how they wanna move things around, but they don't wanna move forward without permission.
They would like to have stand on one side where all the picnic tables are. It's very low, not one area.
Yeah, they wanna fill
Yeah,
it
it's very
They
low.
wanna fill that in,
in. Yeah,
but they need your permission, they told me.
yeah. So
Okay,
if they could meet with you and
sure.
work something out, it'd be great.
Yeah, Tracy can set up something where we can go out there.
I just want to compliment you folks. My wife and I went out there a couple of weeks ago. The
Mhm.
beach is all raked clean, really looks nice.
This
It
camping.
really looks nice, so.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks. I love our community, that's why I'm doing it, I love our
Very
community.
nice.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think you wanted to speak to the board.
Yeah, just a few minutes, just to explain the situation.
What is your name, sir?
Oh, sorry, Jim Buter, and I'm from Crete, Illinois. So it's a nice location, conveniently, don't have to sit in traffic a long time. But my situation was medical related, actually, for myself and my wife. Earlier this summer, I had bone infection, so I was in, whatever, underneath medical care. But was in a cast for about a month and a half. But more importantly, my wife has been diagnosed with a tumor in her abdomen, and now it's infected, so. And it blossomed to be, it's almost the size of a soccer ball, so it's been hard for us to come out to our campsite. And I received a letter, and I would, hopefully, you guys can rethink your decision. And, we really like coming out here, but this summer has just been from a health condition, it's just been terrible for us to get out here. And I'm willing to clean up, I guess there's maybe I didn't realize that the weeds were, growing, so I have to work on that. I'll be better about doing that. I was, in the past, I would have a long cut or whatever by the previous management or whatever, but I'll be better about that going forward. I'll try to get to it before, end of September, so, to do whatever, so if you could take that in heart, whoever is making that decision,
Okay, I think
right?
we'll have to talk to Tracy when she gets back.
Okay, thank you for your time, and I hope I don't like, I'm hoping not embarrassing other campers, it just, I'm trying to upkeep my stuff if I can get to it physically, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
There was one other thing. I don't see the financial reports here or the claims.
This is what, my 5th meeting, and I've never had them to present to you. I am not aware, and Tracy and I talked about that, because she just did her first claims 2 weeks ago. I said, we need to start bringing these claims to you, because you all say you go ahead and approve them, but quite
I
frankly,
get the report.
you get the
I
report.
haven't
right.
got it this time, though. It's the first time I haven't got it.
How do you usually get that? Does
Usually the
Rachel send it?
secretaries- Secretary would get that from Rachel, and Rachel would give it to them, and they would send.
Okay, because I just got it from Rachel today. I said, can I get a copy of that? Because I was going through on what we
That's
sent.
what we need. I do.
That's what we need.
Okay, I'm sorry, because I just assumed you all would automatically get it.
No.
But now that I know, I'll make sure that every time a claim's done, you want that current report,
Yes,
correct?
oh, yes,
Up to the date where that claim will be
Yes.
paid.
that's correct.
You have it. I apologize.
Sir, no problem.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mentioned, I think it was the last meeting or the meeting before about, trying to get that grass cut between the state highway and the fence and that. I did talk to Ed Charbonneau. I told you I was gonna go talk to him twice. We've texted each other quite a few times. Now, I'm not sure because I was sitting there at the gate the other day and a truck came down, a guy kept jumping out with a yellow jacket on and trimming. And it went by so fast, I was gonna stop him because I thought it was the state, but it wasn't the state. I think it was Morrison Construction, so I'm not sure if they contract that kind of thing out or not. But I'm still trying to find out. I've got some information, but this guy was cutting around the sides and the
If
thing.
it was contracted out, he would have had, traffic control and safety to do that. It wouldn't have just been somebody coming and flying on the truck. That would not have been because they do contract out some of the work, but they have very specific guidelines they have to go by in safety things. You would have known that it was the state where someone hired, if someone's just jumping out of their truck or whatever, doing that, that's not someone hired by the state.
Well, and you know, the political aspect, I don't even want to get into that. And me and Ed, we always have words about that. But when that cutter stops down there at the corner and he doesn't come down at 8 on the parking lot, that is absolutely wrong. You know, before it was political, somebody else had it. Now the county has it. They should be cutting there. I don't care what he says in that, but they should be cutting there. I'm trying to get to the bottom of that. The other thing is those buoys that the DNR said to take down in that swimming area. He was pretty upset about that, and I still haven't got an answer. I'm starting to get nasty on what I email him, because I don't like to wait for that. Some kid gets hit by a boat or drowns out there in the weeds or something, who's, God forbid, the life loss, let alone the lawsuit who's gonna be responsible.
And that's,
And I wanna know who the dumb person is at the DNA that made the statement that you can't have those things out there.
I've talked to her, the same lady that told you to take them out, I talked to her.
That's Susie.
Yeah, she said she can't find anything anywhere, but she'll further investigate. That was 6 weeks ago and I've called her once a week and I've never gotten a response.
I have the same thing.
My response to her was, what do you, who's gonna be responsible if a kid gets hurt? The lake gonna be is Kramer Beach gonna be responsible? Are you as a park gonna be responsible, or is the DNR? Because they have a stupid law.
And that's a political thing, you know, it goes like this, that's why I went to the state senator, I know him for 40 years. And I don't wanna mess around, he was concerned about that, and he hasn't got back to me, and my messages are getting a little bit harsh now. But I've known him for 40 years, so, we'll get there, we're gonna find out who is responsible and why they're doing it.
When I was cleaning the beach not too long ago, someone in a pontoon came very close.
Right up
to-
on the beach.
Yeah,
Right to the beach.
they were, I mean, the little boy was standing like this high, probably, in water. So I thought if there was another child out there and they were revving up their motor, you know, it'd be so easy for someone to be hurt, so easy, without having some kind of boundary. You can't go this any further than this. You know, we need something like that. We really
Well,
do.
it makes sense, but the DNR says we can't do it, so we'll find
Yeah.
out, we'll get to.
You know what, and like I said, it's not for me to question you, but the DNR, I wanna ask them how Lake Massacucky, how they have theirs. When I have Indiana Lake State Beach, why they have theirs roped off.
Yeah.
They got different water or different system or different
It
laws.
should be the same.
Bow Shores has one.
Oh, Gator Creek.
I mean, right here at Bass Lake, Bow Shores has a.
Oh,
road
Shores
with
is private.
They took theirs down after they did that. Yeah. all those bad-
Taking it down to the end of the season now.
Well, this is what the DNR said to me.
Other than
The
that,
reason we had to take it down was because those roads were indicating that our beach was private.
What did Mark Schreiber tell you in the board? Did you ever get a hold of him?
He said that they didn't have those roads.
He said what?
They didn't have ropes there.
I did for many years.
Who didn't have room at your beach?
No,
Porter.
the port.
Only
I'm
beach.
sorry.
I didn't speak to him. I spoke to a lady there.
Well, and it doesn't, even though the ropes are there, it doesn't keep anyone out. Anyone who pays to come in on the beach can use it. So it's not.
But they're saying from the water side to the land is designating the water people that that's a private beach. Is how Cindy DeLay explained it
It's
to
a
me.
public lake, can't rope off a section of it because that indicates it's private.
Right, but we're not roping it off to make it privatize that portion of it. We're roping it off for
This
safety.
is the same conversation I had 8 or 9 times with them.
This is
And-
their position, so, you know.
If something happened, the DNR would be the first one to say, hey, why did you take care?
That's why I said, may I have it in writing, and she gave it to me in writing.
Between the highway and the fence from John's house, so all the way to Ball's house. And all that. I do that about every 3 weeks. That's how it's getting mowed. A little bit on this side, we had volunteers, weed whacked.
Yeah, Randy does it down there, and okay.
And then from John's mailbox going your way, you guys take care of it. So
You shouldn't have to do that.
Well, I know it shouldn't, but I don't want it to look like crap. I've got at least 5 or 6 pictures of boats in the beach, in the water, the swimming area.
Right up in the swimming area.
Yeah, up in the swimming area. I tell them it shouldn't be there, they said, it's not marked, and they're illegal, I mean, they're not illegal, there's nothing saying they can't.
Do you have those pictures? You guys talk to DNR maybe. So.
What I did was I talked to Susie a week or so ago, and she gave me a couple of district numbers to call on enforcement where she's compliance. I know,
That's who I called before.
I know, and I got nothing. I'm just saying,
They told me there is no law. There is nothing that says you can't section off a beach for safety. And she goes, well, I gotta check with them. And I still haven't heard.
I'm.
But
we're chasing
I
the same
called
horse.
enforcement before I talked to her. So I don't know what's going on.
So
It's
I got the
crazy.
local and the regional numbers for us to contact. I guess the only saving grace right now is that we're almost at the end of the season and kids aren't out there, and I feel we'll have dodged the bullet, but I feel need to have a more definitive answer next year.
Send me those pictures if you can.
Okay, you've got some.
I got some too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there might be an option until you get this all rectified for next year. Is putting buoys out there, that says no motorized watercraft
Yeah,
on this point.
yeah, that might be a,
That might be a way
Better.
to get away from it till you get this.
Better than nothing.
yeah, and I thought DNR had rules about boating. That they can't get too close to the shore.
That's a no wake, but that's it. It's just they can't have a wake. They control it.
Safety.
But they also have a 300-foot law.
200, no, 200 from the shore.
That,
They can't. be
I can
within-
tell you it's 300.
It's 300.
I believe it's 300.
I know, Queens Lake is 200 from the shore there.
It's making a special.
Well, that might be, but Bow Shores is 300. It's 300. He did it with, working with DNR. So
When we first set up.
so maybe they changed it or grandfather, that could be, but I know it's 300 feet because now somebody in their bright idea wants to close off the swimming area for the kids and make it boats. But that's not here, nor there. It was 300. It's changed.
Right, that's a state law that was just for Bass Lake. Specific law, I don't remember what it was, but I do have a copy of that. It's a different distance at Bass Lake than it is at other lakes because Bass Lake is so shallow.
Shallow. I think is why.
What day and what time do the commissioners meet? They meet once a month, right?
Yeah, there's a calendar on their site.
Twice a month,
Twice
first and third Mondays, unless there's a holiday.
at 6 o'clock here?
5 or 6, I don't know what the time they
Might
are.
be
one-
I think they're going back to the day.
Yeah, one is in the morning and one's in the afternoon.
One's at 10 and one's at 5.
The joint one is at 6, is later on, but the.
Last time it was at 5 for some reason, I don't mind.
It's on the county
You
website.
guys would be surprised if you go to, I used to go to commissioners before they had a park board. They get a little nervous when they're elected and people come in there, start hollering at them. You know, these guys are getting all the heat, but they're appointed to that. When you
That's why
start
they
seeing the
created
commission, when you start seeing the commissioners and that, then they start looking a little bit different. So you might want to try and make a few of them meetings again.
Well, the whole purpose of the park board being created.
Debbie, I know the
that-
purpose
I
of
mean,
this.
I-
And these guys are appointed, they're not elected, and they're taking the heat. I know that.
I understand, that's what I'm saying, I was on the original, and they did it because they wanted to get the heat off of themselves.
They asked me to be on before they formed one, and I said no, because I had another job, and I couldn't do them both. Period. Oh, I know that. Know that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is there this new kayak and rental, or is it a rental thing or
launch.
it's just
It's
a
just a
launch?
launch for
But
people.
it have to be manned.
No, no, this is just places to get in and out. Anything else? Yes, sir.
At least. Last meeting and the meeting before, there was, Rick had brought up the adding these campground roads to possibly the county highway system, so we could use the funding to repair them. There was some discussion, but I think it was left in as an unfinished business.
Well,
I could call it.
Park board wouldn't do that. That would be between the highway department and the commissioners. There's a very specific thing that they have to do to add those roads to the county system. And that's through the highway department and the commissioners.
Okay, but as an entity that's responsible for that area, shouldn't you have a recommendation to the commissioners or somebody to say, hey, we would like to do this? Because at this point, you just discussed it and now it's not getting to the commissioners for action or decision. And that's where I'm just bringing it up for some kind of direction to say, hey, we've got these roads that need to be maintained, but they're not in the county system. Can we do this? Should we do this?
Well, also the roads in that park like that are different. In order to make them part of the county system, you have to upgrade them to a certain point. I'm not sure the county would want to do that. And there's different rules about people being able to come in at all times. You can never close off the front and other things. It will make it much more public and people will have more access to that. If those were made county roads. So there's more to it than just the county taking that over and there's a lot more to that. I'm not sure I would want those to be county roads because I'm not sure that would be the best thing for the campers. It may be, I don't know.
And I'm just trying to follow suit here with other counties and other county parks. They do the same thing, right? They have to maintain it or they're maintaining it on their own. So
They're usually maintaining it on their own park within a park system. Sometimes larger park systems will have their own road, street department or people who do that.
Right, but there isn't anything that was, correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't anything that would stop us if we raise enough money to be able to use highway employees and then reimburse them for their
That would
costs.
be up
Right?
to the commissioners.
We could
They
request
could
that.
do that, yes. That would be up to the commissioners to allow it to be.
Yeah, because I know they've done that for the property owners and
Yes.
stuff.
Yes, and they have done that for the campground.
but still, again, are you guys in favor as a board, you folks, to do that and go to the commissioners? Is there a motion? Is there something that's gonna get you guys to
Another
be
problem
able
with
to
that
do
is,
that?
another problem is you make it a county road. All the properties on it get taxed. County already owns it. There's some rules about that being on state and county property, and that's a problem with that as well. Those have to be taxed.
Yeah, I think.
Okay,
It's fairly complicated, and I'm not,
you replied with 4 negatives, and I'm trying to bring up the fact that we don't have the funding in our budget to do anything with the roads. We can't ask them to come in and do anything for the roads because it's not a county road. So I'm trying to get us to somewhere in between to where we're trying to both meet the regulatory side of it and to be able to do some kind of repair in that campground.
in my experience with, because I have applied to the commissioners when I was a highway superintendent to add roads. And if there were properties on there that were paying taxes, and offset the cost to the county because they get a certain amount, they will get no extra money for these roads being. Most of the county roads now, the county gets a certain amount of money for every mile. I think it's about $5,500 a year for each mile. They won't get any extra money for those roads within there. So that will all be coming out of their existing budget. And I think they would be reluctant to do that because it would just be caught. It'd be better for them just to give money to the park board, in other words. Because it would not be gaining, normally when we added roads in the past, it would add revenue to the county. This will not add any revenue to the county. It costs them more money to operate.
Can they make a donation?
It will be up to the commissioners to do that.
Would that be something feasible to ask?
Donation, how?
I don't know. I get begged for money all the time.
Well, that would be a part of the budget and the council and all of that.
Well, and I think some of the things we can do, though, is obviously when we're looking at these grants, obviously the infrastructure starts
Yes.
to take its part, but.
And some grants have in-kind things where the county could provide some services instead of doing matching funds, and that commissioners have done that in the past as well. That depends on the grant.
Who has the final say Is it the commissioner or is it the president of the county council? When you put an amount of money in that you want for this, who has the final say to okay that? Which person?
The county council, the council approves the budget for each year. And if you have to go additional money over the budget, the county council has to approve that. The commissioners have their own, they're the executive of the county, they have their own funds, but their funds are even voted on by the council. But the extra money like that would be the council. Now, us spending money, that's the people who appoint us. I'm appointed by the council, some are appointed by the judge, some are appointed by the commissioners. That's why the council, the commissioners, and the judge don't control the whole board, it's who appoints them, and each one's a representative of that entity. So the council is the one that controls the money and the budget. Commissioners do have a say in it though as well, but the council are the ones who
Well,
vote.
the council's elected, right?
They are elected, yes.
So, yeah, both are commissioners and council.
But the budget is submitted to the council, I think in May or June, and then voted on, and then the final say in the budget is August or September. I think they just had it or they're going to have it soon.
Right, that's right, I thought I had heard that there's a budget meeting.
There is, but that was already,
Friday.
No, that's just
No?
us. That's something different.
No, I'm not saying for the
Oh,
public.
I mean, what I texted you today,
Right.
Friday,
Right,
that's just Rachel, Dave Pearman,
an
yourself,
internal meeting.
if you want to be in on it, and Tracy and myself.
I would like to be in on
Okay, it's 3:30 Friday here. I'll send you guys an email.
Tally on to that, it sounds like that's where we're at with this funding. Is there clarification, do we at this point in this meeting have a budget for the Stark County Park Board? Or
Yes.
this calendar fiscal year?
Yes, there is.
Yes.
Was one submitted before?
Yes, once it was submitted last year for this year,
Right.
one was already submitted for next year.
Because there was rumors that we didn't have a budget this year, and that's why they. And the reason I'm asking that question because of the Zoom, neither don't that, because the rumor around here, it's not.
They have
There is no-
employees, they have to have them.
Well, I understand what should be reality and what is reality. This is budget. Okay.
Well, we're not talking about the document that we get each month.
That is part of that, that's the budget.
That's the budget. I mean, normally, when I had usually thought about budgets, it's kind of more of an English version. Here's the highlight, here's each of the.
That's how-
And
And
the
what
points to-
what we get is, that is how the budget is reported.
That report there is the budget for this year. It says how much we have for internet, how much we have for superintendent, how much we have for contract work. And
There are
then
different
this
line-
report
Yeah, I
here
saw those.
shows how much we've spent out of each one of those buckets.
And in the buckets, sometimes you can transfer from others to others, sometimes depending on the department within that budget. You can't transfer some funds without the county council commission.
So,
I know, that's,
so there are already numbers for 2023.
yes, there are.
And I have seen, not saying, where do we
And
find that
when did
23
those
budget?
get,
Council. And Rachel, go to Rachel,
and when did those get approved?
here in June, and the final approval is coming up.
And that's what this meeting Friday is about, probably, right?
And one thing I was upset about, and it was no one's fault, this is during the transition that we had for the superintendent, is the board was never presented with that budget, and
Right.
it should be.
Well, and I can
And
see
that's why,
that.
that's why I was confused,
Yeah.
'cause I never saw anything, other than, you know.
And
what we
then
did.
next year we have to make sure we are presented with that.
For an example, when I looked at this year's budget, which Cameron obviously presented and it was approved by
No, she
someone.
did not present that.
I thought she did. She told me she worked on the budget
You
and
may
then
have given it directly to Rachel.
Was it a public meeting? It was.
I didn't see it. It was not given to the department,
May have been in an executive session or something that was
Okay.
not put in public.
No, we haven't had it.
and we did not vote on it.
well, then how are we, why are we living under this ridiculous budget that this is our 2022 budget?
No, well, that budget, because that was provided to Rachel, she gave it to the council, we did not have a say in it either year. We need to make sure we do for the next year.
guys have a say in it.
For an example, they have in this budget for this year,
This meeting Friday.
$5,000.
We need to ask that question.
What is what is the Friday meeting for, 2024?
2023.
Still 2023, yes, final.
If you're talking about the meeting I mentioned to you today, that is a meeting just between
No, I know.
this board, but it should be brought up because it's just this board.
But that's the goal.
We never saw the budget that was submitted.
Well, if it was for this board,
Yeah, I
we're just now.
I just found out about it today. I got a message from Dave Pearman saying, can Tracy be ready for a budget meeting with Rachel and myself and you on Friday? And I mentioned it to Tom, and Tom said, I'd like to be included in it.
Well, then
I
it's not,
quite candidly don't know exactly what,
so then it's not for the board. It was. for
but
the
why
people.
shouldn't it be?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I agree.
Then
That's
why
why.
wasn't
I'm
it
gonna
brought
include
to
you in it.
everybody? Why was Mr. Pearman just making it for you guys?
Because he's trying to get Tracy to get her arms around the budget, which no one did with Cameron. And I think we're trying to establish that some guidelines for her so she has something to work with.
The way it should, is it's supposed to work with the park board or any boards like the planning commission as well, is the park superintendent presents a budget to the park board. Park board approves that budget, then it is sent to the council for the preliminary meetings in May and June. And then it gets the final readings in August and September. We were never presented that. And right at what she was leaving before we could say anything to her about it.
Do we know, was that budget approved? Because I hope to God.
That's what Rachel, hopefully it was.
Because I looked at this and it said this budget for this year, $5,000 for part-time
Well,
workers.
it was approved by the council.
But the
And-
23,
And
For 2020.
we were, 2023 has already been approved by the council. The final readings in September. That's some of the things we have to discuss.
we got to change that before they do the
We have a
final,
lot of, well.
if we can.
Well, I don't think we can.
No.
Oh, my God. Like I said, if they did the same thing, which I assume they did $5,000 for part-time workers for the season, how are you gonna run maintenance, mowing,
Right.
janitorial, gatekeepers, assistant managers on $5,000 for a year? Give me a break.
Like Rick said, you can transfer internally depending on the laws.
You can, but we needed to be a part of that.
I agree.
And Friday, I think we really need to talk about that. And I think
I know.
if they can make it. we'll make it.
Now, I'm not gonna say anything bad about Dave, and I'm sure he's listening in and I don't care. The thing that he mentioned to me when I said, yes, we want to be in this budget, we want to learn more about the budget, he said, that's fine. We're gonna show you how to not spend money, but don't ask for any more money. Now, when I look at the top of our budget and I look at a carryover of $38,000 and 38,660 is a carryover, I'm assuming that's that seed money that's still in there. Because after that comes our revenue.
Can you send me the latest for budget report?
I got that today. I will send it to you tomorrow. So I'm just saying,
Send it to all of them.
we as a board, and you as a board, and me as the secretary, and Tracy as the super, have got to have some say-so on this ridiculous budget that they expect us to work within.
I think a good working meeting Friday will help.
I love it. I hope everybody can be there.
Well, it isn't just working within it. I mean, some of these numbers, I would assume back when there was the original superintendent were provided by them for 2022 or 2021.
They, I looked at the 2021, it was like a carryover. Okay. I looked at the 21 budget and I looked at the 22 and they were almost mirrored.
There's a reason. for
And
that.
the revenue expectation was so skewed. I was like, obviously, we didn't have anything to really base it on, right?
I'll bring that on Friday and give a history of what.
Okay, good.
What time is that meeting, Friday?
3:30,
Here?
That's in here.
yes.
I just gotta say one more thing. I think that everybody in this room, I'm not speaking for the board, is from the Bass Lake campgrounds or lives around Bass Lake. So that ought to tell the Starke County Park Board something. Now, if you go to the commissioners meeting and start that stuff, they're elected. That tells them something, believe me. When you start seeing those people show up, those officials get elected. But Bass Lake Beach and Campground, in my estimation, is gonna be the crown jewel of Starke County. Period. I mean, I don't know, your forestry is self-sustaining that you got campers and you got piers and you put in aluminum. You're gonna have 80 some slips in there, you're gonna have money coming in. Some of these people got lawns and decks better than you have at your house. They want True Green to come in and that. Eventually, it's gonna get there. That's a jewel. And that's why you see the people hearing that.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
No, sir.
And I think somewhere around 30% of property. From the POA are full-time residents.
But we also get criticized for not paying attention to the other properties. So.
I've got a question. Does anybody, we talked about bringing stone in and stuff like that, sand and whatever through the county. I'm sure that we would get a better rate than a private person, but has anybody ever got any rates from the county? So what's it cost for a driver And a
They-
triaxle.
They have those rates and Tracy would have to go talk to the superintendent of the highway, get those rates and then go in front of the commissioners and ask them to do those things. They do have those rates.
Okay, so there is something that we can plan on.
It's up to the highway superintendent to come up with those his costs or her costs and do that. And they can do that.
I'd also be willing to, if you guys wanted to, if we could rent a lift, I'd be more than glad to cut trees down.
Well, there's insurance reasons. That,
Okay, that's very good.
Yeah.
Not a problem. I just saying that,
I know it practically that would work, but
okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of campers that are in really trouble.
Well, like I said, because of the storm, the companies that we contacted said, we can't come out and give you a quote right now, they're doing cleanup. I called them again, I'm hoping to hear back from them, we only have one quote so far, and that was for $2,000 to clear all that,
How
so,
much?
2,000. And like he explained, that's a lot of up and down in the bucket, because it's just going along, up, down, trim, and then haul it off. Pardon?
14 foot wide, 16 foot.
I
tall.
showed them where we need to go down all the roadways and then above the tops of the higher rigs, so when they come out, we don't take their air conditioners off.
Yeah, because you don't want to do it just for 1 year. Most legal height is what, 13.6?
13.6,
So you want to go 15 foot, and it gives you some years of growth afterwards.
Good point.
So you don't have to come
do
back
that
again and again. But
There's a lot
Okay.
of trees
I
that
can't help
branches
it,
are
can't
starting
help.
to fall.
I know.
And I thought maybe that forest guy could come in and look at our trees and see some of them, if they're dead or not, just like the one that fell.
The
or
one that
hit
hit Jason in the
Jason
head.
while
Oh
he
my
was
God.
weed whacking. I mean, a branch. a
Just
big
after the
branch
storm,
just
he was cleaning up one of the neighbor's yards and a huge branch
hit
just
him in the head.
bashed right in. top
you
of the
can
head.
have Bruce.
I mean, I just thought maybe because there's some
Or you can.
dead ones.
You can ask Bruce, or you could even go to Purdue Extension and
Ask
ask
them.
them. They'll get to Woolery.
Just look at the trees
Plus
and
the
see,
whole
because
group.
there are a lot of
Who, Phil, look at it.
Phil.
or something, because
They can take them out.
some,
Especially.
yeah,
And he would come out and look at it and ascertain
Well,
what,
Liz, right
yeah,
there,
there's some
so.
that are.
okay. I'll talk to him in the morning, he's in. See, I learned a lot today. I didn't know that right in my
He
corner.
might be doing there's a thing going, but
Kayaking, yeah.
whatever. May not be the one.
Anything else?
Did we ever, can we look into and make sure that the second installment for the Marina Pier?
For
was
the
paid?
Marina Piers, I got a call from Michelle and she hadn't seen her second check. I looked through the budget today and in the claims, I did not see anything. So
Send
she's
them back
gonna
some of the
resend,
tears.
Yeah.
I'd love to. She's gonna resend it.
Here, it hasn't come back.
I can't find any invoicing or anything. from her. I know her first installment was paid.
We put dates when we voted on that, there were dates to be paid, weren't there?
August 1st was supposed to be your last installment.
Friday, another.
I have a question, and it's not for an answer, it's just for you to think about over some time. Over at Boa Shores and what we now call Boa Park. We have always been told that, as an organization, that we were good keepers of the property. Starting last year, they started making it a parking lot for cars. So even when kids want to come and play ball or whatever, they can't because there's trailers there, there's trucks there, there's cars there, golf carts that they're using on that property. And that includes they're pretty much respectful of the property that's in front of me, but that's still a county land. I don't like it because I think first of all, it's an eyesore. Second of all, it kind of keeps kids from playing there. And the neighborhoods change and there's a lot more kids there now. So I just wanted to bring the idea up to you to think about whether that's really a way you want that park to be used.
What park are we talking about?
It's right up Boa Drive, when you come off of 210, it's on the right.
It's what we call the triangle. At one time, Boa Drive was very wide. It was like a Y. And then when they paved it, they paved this piece, and this piece became just grass. And that's where Boa Shores holds all of their meetings. They have boards up, bulletin boards up there and everything, and they have electric up there and lights. And it crosses in front of my house and then goes into the property next to us. Because again, it was a Y at one time. And Boa Shores has just always, most people in Boa Shores, especially the new people, just assume they own it. And they've had signs that say for Boa Shores, people only. I made sure they took that down. Because it isn't just for use of Boa Shores people. But anyway, I just wanted to inform you because I kind of want to think about, you know, now they're starting to use it as a cut because they took out some of the pipes that they had in. Because years ago, people used to have a path, a truck path going across the property instead of following the road. And now that's starting to happen again. And so then it's not grass,
It is county park property. However, in the past, in the park board allowed the Bass Lake the Boa Shores property owners to administer it. And that has been the kind of agreement ever since. So there has not been a formal agreement that I know of, but that they basically administer it, but it is a Starke County park land. So that is something we probably need to make a decision on. And Debbie's right about that, because that is,
yeah, and it was never
there's no
formally,
formalized.
it wasn't even formally called Boa Park. I found that out when I was on the park board, then a survey came out with, I think it was from Territorial, and they named it Boa Park. It had never been Boa Park before.
Somebody has to put a name to it.
Well,
Exactly,
there is a
that's what they did.
legal president.
So is this on the lakeside of 210 or? on the
No, no.
opposite side?
The
Opposite side, it's, we call it the triangle. And there's a.
I never-
Turn up Old Drive, turn up Old Drive to
I know exactly where it's at.
Debbie's house, the first one on the right, just beyond Debbie's house before you get to Leanan.
So are you suggesting considering the park board taking that?
Well, I think we. need to-
Under wing?
It technically is, it's very similar to Kramer Beach.
Okay.
So,
So, boy,
I'm only bringing this up because it's not harming anything at this point. It's been going on for 2 years since we had a new person that decided, a new president that decided that that was going to be open to parking and stuff.
It does say on the Starke County GIS, Starke County Park land. There's something to
Okay.
that effect.
But it
does
was
say
named
that,
Boa Park.
something like that. But it's county,
It is county land.
so maybe the Starke County Park Board could have a farmer's market there and raise money during the summer.
You know what? I would love that.
Way to bring a
However,
little revenue in if we're gonna have to maintain it.
honestly, it's, the problem is, and because that's part of what I do for work, but it's finding vendors.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Knox is having a hard time. They're right in town. But
So we
you're
have,
right,
we
the
have a
summer
carnival and a
people,
bouncy house.
when we had it, I moved.
Ferris wheel.
Days later,
right.
dating myself, but I moved
It's
to
on-
the
it's on
Knox
land, let's
Farmers
talk about
Market
it.
years ago at Boa Shores because we weren't making any money.
and the park board, even
And
before I
they
was
brought
on
in
it,
lots of money.
park board, before I was on it, was gonna have Marty Lucas, who was the park board lawyer at the time, do a survey of all the properties, because there are other properties like this around that are deeded technically to county parks. And I think that's something that Justin needs to look at, and kind of finalize that. Marty never finished that report, but that report needs to be done, so we know what to do with some of those.
I agree.
Yeah, we should look at it as a whole,
Hopefully,
not just one at a time.
many people from other parts of the county say, what about us? We do need to know exactly what lands are Starke County parks.
Right, yeah.
I mean,
And that's a good example of that. There are others. I think there's something like that around St. Pierre. I think there might be a couple others. That's something we need to look at.
I mean, I have people in my neighborhood that don't talk to me because I told them they had to take down the part that said Boa Shore residents only. And it was relayed to me when Kathy to please let them know that, and I did, and now there's, I mean, they had stop, they still have stop signs all over the place and don't do this, it's crazy. But at that little piece of property, I just don't like being at a parking. And I think it's gonna get worse over time, because it's now been allowed. Years ago, they stopped it from being from trucks because they planted trees that cars and trucks couldn't go through. Well, now they've taken some of the things away, so now they can, and we're getting a divot of tire tracks. And so I see that just getting worse over time, which is why I said you don't need to do anything now, but just think about it, because it really could become an issue.
I appreciate hearing that.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. We are doing. Hold on.
If they want to give us a minute.
Cause I knew a guy, a friend of mine, that owns a company, and does all the things, so I can see, he could give you the pricing. It's in Indiana, in Cherville, Indiana, 'cause that's, I used to call her, that was one of my customers. Like that.
This is the pump.
Grinder.
Can I just text that down?
Yeah, you got yeah,
I'll text that.
yeah, because you know, you can also, if you find a company, they'll bring them.
He's the one that came out on that first day.
Make sure it's.
Make sure it's.
That
Guys.
put people in like, I used to.
So let me know. I will. Is it a one?
You're doing a good job. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I did. I found it in the back of it, but I didn't stop. Mom's out now too, but that's, oh, very pretty. Oh, yeah. I thought that's one of the nice days. I was telling you, place. You know, well, I guess you see those fancy chairs which were made out today or yesterday out there. Cushions and everything else. Yeah, I know you do. Yeah.
You know, I told you, I was not here.
But when you go on vacation.
Right on the ocean.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I'm coming. So actually, I'll be there Friday.
It's a good vacation. I always think that I think,
That's why it's.
So how much? I still